Hello students, we continue with the second chapter of history, writing and city life. In this video, we will study the development of writing in Mesopotamia, the system of writing in cuneiform, construction and maintenance of temples in Mesopotamia, the role of kings in construction and maintenance of temples in Mesopotamia. The development of writing in Mesopotamia. All societies have languages in which spoken sounds convey certain meanings. This is verbal communication. Writing too is verbal communication, but in a different way. The development of writing in Mesopotamia. The first Mesopotamian tablets were written around 3200 BCE, which contained picture-like signs and numbers. These were about 5000 lists of oxen, fish, bread loaves, etc. List of goods that were brought into or distributed from the temples of Uruk. Mesopotamians wrote on tablets of clay. A scribe would wet clay and pat it into a small size he could hold comfortably in one hand. He would carefully smoothen its surface. With the sharp end of a reed, he would press wedge-shaped cuneiform signs onto the smoothened surface while it was still moist. Once dried in the sun, the clay tablet would harden and tablets would be almost as indestructible as pottery. Once the surface dried, signs could not be pressed onto a tablet, so each transaction, however minor, required a separate written tablet. By 2600 BCE, the letters became cuneiform and the language was Sumerian. Writing was now used not only for keeping records, but also for making dictionaries, narrating the deeds of kings, and announcing the changes a king had made in the customary laws of the land. Sumerian, the earliest known language of Mesopotamia, was gradually replaced after 2400 BCE by the Akkadian language. Cuneiform writing in the Akkadian language continued in use until the 1st century CE. The system of writing in cuneiform. Cuneiform sign did not represent a single consonant or vowel such as M or A in English alphabet, but syllable like say, put, come, in. Thus, the signs that a Mesopotamian scribe had to learn ran into hundreds, and he had to be able to handle a wet tablet and get it written before it dried. So, writing was a skilled craft, but more important, it was an enormous intellectual achievement, conveying in visual form the system of sounds of a particular language. Literacy in Mesopotamia. Very few Mesopotamians could read and write. Not only there were hundreds of signs to learn, but many of these were very complex. For the most part, however, writing reflected the mode of speaking. Construction and maintenance of temples in Mesopotamia. The earliest cities emerged around temples. Some cities developed as centers of trade and some were imperial cities. Early settlers began to build and rebuild temples at selected spots in their villages. Construction and maintenance of temples in Mesopotamia. The earliest known temple was a small shrine made of unbaked bricks. Temples were the residences of various gods, moon god and sun god, or the goddess of love and war. Temples became larger over time, with several rooms around open courtyard. Some of the early ones were possibly not unlike the ordinary house, but temples always had their outer walls going in and out at regular intervals, which no ordinary buildings ever had. The god was the focus of worship. To him or her, people brought grain, curd, and fish. The god was also the theoretical owner of the agricultural fields, the fisheries, and the herds of the local community. Production processes such as oil pressing, grain grinding, spinning, and the weaving of woolen cloth done in the temple. The temple gradually developed its activities and became the main urban institution by organizing production, employing merchants, and keeping of written records of distributions and allotments of grain, plough, animals, bread, beer, fish, etc. Role of kings in construction and maintenance of temples in Mesopotamia. As the archaeological record shows, villages were periodically relocated in Mesopotamian history because of flood in the river and changes in the course of the river. There were man-made problems as well. Those who lived on the upstream stretches of a channel could divert so much water into their fields that villages of downstream were left without water. When there was continuous warfare in a region, those chiefs who had been successful in war could oblige their followers by distributing the loot and could take prisoners from the defeated groups to employ in the various temple works. In time, victorious chiefs began to offer precious booty to the gods and thus beautify the community's temples. They would send men out to fetch fine stones and metals for the benefit of God and community and organize the distribution of temple wealth in an efficient way by accounting for things that came in and went out. War captives and local people were put to work for the temple or directly for the ruler. This, rather than agricultural tax, was compulsory. Those who were put to work were paid rations. It has been estimated that one of the temples took 1,500 men working 10 hours a day, 5 years to build. With the rulers commanding people to fetch stones or metal ores to come and make bricks or lay the bricks for a temple, or else to go to a distant country to fetch suitable materials. Hundreds of people were put to work at making and baking clay cones that could be pushed into temple walls, painted in different colors, creating a colorful mosaic.